Welcome back, everybody, to the Freedom from Addiction channel. I'm Coach Malik, author of Overcoming Addiction Through Grace, as well as founder of Amazing Grace Recovery LLC. And I specialize in helping individuals overcome addiction to alcohol, drugs, cigarettes, and gambling. So today's video, we'll be talking about four of the most difficult areas to overcome early in your sobriety. And if you don't address these things and gain the tools and the wisdom to conquer these challenges, your chances of staying clean are slim to none. So the first one I want to share with you is boredom. For me, early on in my recovery, I found myself to be bored, and I didn't understand why I was so bored because it wasn't like I didn't have things to do. But in hindsight and looking back on it, it was now that I had stopped spending time trying to find the drug, go get the drug, and then the rest of the time using it or abusing it, I should say, that took up all of my time. And it became like a full-time job, whether it was gambling, whether it was drinking or using drugs. So what I found out is this, and you may be feeling the same thing, is that you feel like you have all of this time on your hands. And that's because all of the time was allocated to going to get high or going to get drunk, whatever your drug of choice was. So now that you have made your decision to say, I'm not using anymore, it's going to feel boring. But these are some things that I want you to recognize. And one of it is that now that you do have this extra time, this is a good time to focus on what your God-given purpose is. What hobbies do you have? What talents, what gifts, God-given gifts do you have? What are your dreams? What are your visions? Because at some point before we started abusing substances, or whether it was gambling, before you started compulsive gambling, you had dreams, you had goals, you had a vision for your life. So we need to address that boredom and change our perspective about it, that it's always something to do. If we're bored, a lot of that is because we need to find something to replace that time that we had spent putting all of that energy and effort and time in trying to get high or trying to chase that dopamine hit. So now it's about changing your perspective and looking at the boredom and saying, there's always something to do. I'm going to use this time to go after my dream, to find out what my purpose is, to start this new business, to write down all of the ideas that I have. And this will help overcome that battle of being bored or thinking that you're bored. For me, I started my addiction recovery coaching business, and now I'm living out my purpose and my dream and my vision, and I believe God-given purpose to help others overcome addiction the same way I did. Number 2 is cutting off family that continue to do the same thing that you're trying to turn away from, and meeting new friends, having a new network. For me, that included joining support groups such as AA, GA, NA, Celebrate Recovery, I began to surround myself around people that were headed in the same direction that I was headed in, that have made their mind up to say that I want more out of life than just doing these same things over and over again, knowing that it's destroying me. So instead of going to bars and casinos and clubs, I joined a church. I joined my church. I'm faithful in the ministry. I'm faithful with going back to serve others in the addiction community, going back to the rehab that I came out to speak to those that are struggling right now. These are the things that we need to look at. Who is in our circle? Because if we keep going, if we go back to the same people, going to the same places and doing the same things, then we're setting ourselves up for failure. So instead of talking to friends who don't understand my addiction or associates, now it's about talking to therapists. It's about talking to sponsors, mentors, those that I've seen conquer their addiction and living a clean life. So these are some things we can do instead of thinking we have all of the answers. Now we developed a network where you can talk to someone who can relate to you, who has been where you are, and will encourage you and give you wise counsel and suggestions of what to do next. So, example for me was, I remember being around 10 months clean from alcohol and drugs. My gambling, I later on stopped gambling around 6 months after alcohol and drugs, after I let that go. But I remember knowing that I didn't have enough tools. I didn't have enough strength. I didn't have enough understanding of my addiction for those first 10 months to put myself around people that were still using, people that were still doing all of the things that I used to do. So it wasn't until my 10th month when I went to my family reunion, and that's when I knew I made a decision and said, I can no longer run from this. I have to be around this, because we all know alcohol, drugs, gambling, cigarettes, whatever it is, whatever your thing is, it's always going to be around. But we do have to develop enough tools to have in our toolbox. So when we are around those people that are doing those things, number one, we have time away from it, and we have a deeper understanding that what the triggers are. We have a deeper understanding what our addiction has done to us, and we have a made up mind that no matter what, it doesn't matter who I'm around, I'm not using. I'm not taking that drink of alcohol. I'm not placing that bet. So until we get to that place and we know it, I would strongly advise and suggest that you stay away from anyone that's practicing and doing the things that you used to once do. Number 3 is a perspective change. Instead of looking at how hard things are, look at things as what you're going through right now is preparing you for the future. Instead of saying this is going to be hard and how am I going to get through the holidays, birthdays, social events, things like that, take it one day at a time. That's the slogan that I held on to early in recovery. And I lived that out every day, because the truth is that's all we have is today. So the more that we embrace the moment and learn to enjoy and cherish every moment we have, because we don't know when our last day is. There's so many people that I'm sure you know that have overdosed, whether it was fentanyl or they might have had cardiac arrest from drug usage or cirrhosis of the liver that didn't make it. So we really need to learn how to embrace that. And that's a part of perspective, being grateful, renewing our mind. Because the truth is, if we start to, when the thoughts come in our mind saying, for me, it sounded something like this. Hey, you've been doing good. You've been clean for a little while. Why don't you go get a little drink, a pint of something, a pint of Hennessy. You're doing good. You can smoke a cigarette. There's nothing wrong with that. Oh, that weed sure smells good. If we start romanticizing those thoughts that come, we're headed for a relapse. We're headed for a repeat vicious cycle of destruction. So we have to learn how to cut it off at the core. So you know when those thoughts come up. So I encourage you and I suggest that when those thoughts come to you, that you cut it off from the root. You do not let that seed plant in your mind, because after it's planted in the mind, actions and behavior follow that. And number 4 is overcoming cravings. This will be tough. I'm 4 years clean from alcohol and drugs, 3.5 years clean from gambling, and almost 2 years clean from nicotine, smoking cigarettes. And I have to admit, there are times where those cravings still come up, and it may come from anywhere. I may smell it. I may smell somebody in the car next to me smoking weed. And then we all know there's a liquor store on every corner. So these are things that you can't run from. And then we also know the betting industry, the gambling industry is just blown up crazy. Everywhere you look, there's commercials about apps, FanDuel and all of these other gambling apps where you don't even have to leave the comfort of your home. You just have to open up your app and press some buttons to gamble. So the temptation is going to always be there. But we need to learn how to prepare ourselves for that. We need to learn how to identify these urges and when these cravings come up and realize that, once again, it's a trick to draw us back in. And the thing is, if you overcome the first 10 to 15 minutes of that craving, there's a good chance that you will be able to conquer that for that moment and be ready to fight another day. And that's how you build confidence. That's how you build momentum in your recovery and sticking to the script, not having to reinvent the wheel. The suggestions, the blueprint, everything is already there, laid out for you. What millions of people have done to be successful in overcoming their addiction. And then before you know it, the minutes turn into hours, the hours turn into days, days turn into months, and then months turn into years. And you will see that you're living a life without that same compulsion that you once had, or that same thought thinking that you couldn't do life without that substance, without gambling. So for me, ways that I overcome my cravings now is, as we talked about, when the thought comes in, I don't play with it. I don't romanticize it. And then I immediately shift whatever I'm doing to something else to get my mind off. And right now, I would say it doesn't matter what it is, as long as it's nothing that's going to be destructive or harmful to you. It could be watching a movie, going to a movie for you. It could be spending time with a loved one. It could be going to a restaurant, eating something that's good, that you like. There's many things. Going to exercise, reading a book. For me, a lot of praying when those times come up. A lot of reading scriptures and devotionals, affirmations that uplift me. So these are some suggestions that when those cravings start to hit you and that old voice that we're all too familiar with starts talking to us, we need to know how to conquer those voices, those temptations that come our way. So if you are watching this right now and you are struggling with any of these 4 areas that we've talked about, or maybe you're struggling with all of them and you want to stop repeating the same behavior over and over again, what I want you to do right now is click the link in the description so you and I can talk about how to get you out this vicious cycle, get you the resources and the strategies you need to get you through this phase and get you to the freedom from addiction that you deserve. But it will only happen if you take the first step. So go ahead and book the call right now. I look forward to hearing from you, and God bless.